a special moment arises. I'm Grady the Professor Matthews, and I have never had an honor quite like this. This is George Rood, one of the subjects of the Legends of the Road stories. This is Bill Weenie Beenie Staten, one of our greatest players. Eddie Taylor, the best bank pool player that ever lived. Nobody beat him playing 9-ball banks or one pocket. Cornbread Red, and Beanie, I know you're dying to ask some questions here.
Well, it's an honor really to be up here with these gentlemen. We're in Louisville, Kentucky at the Derby City Classic, and I'm telling you, this is a Johnston City throwback. Where would you run into George Rube, Cornbread Red, Eddie Taylor, and many other people here that aren't up here with us? Anyway, my good friend Eddie Taylor here on my right. Eddie, I remember one time that we were flying back from Denver to Chicago. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, all I can tell you is when we got on the plane took off and all the dishes fell down, and I thought the world was coming to an end. And the next thing I know, the electricity, not the ushers, the people that took care of the people on the plane, they were running back and forth, and Beanie said, "There's something. I smelled something burning," and sure enough, we thought, didn't know what was going to happen, and finally we made it to Chicago, and they put us on another plane. But that was one scary moment for us.
Yeah, the plane actually had an electrical fire, and the pilot did not make any effort to turn the plane around. Fortunately, Eddie had had a few drinks. I was scared to death. He said, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Well, we made it anyway, didn't we, Eddie?
We sure did.
I want to say one more quick thing about Eddie Taylor. We just had a wonderful bank pool tournament, all the best bank pool players in the world. And Eddie, your high run in banks is up in the 30s, isn't it?
Well, I ran 37, but
that's disgusting, but continue.
I don't think this will ever be beaten because nobody plays that way anymore. I was playing a fella, racking all the balls, all 15 balls, and we were playing for $2 a bank. Well, there was 12 balls left on the table. I banked the 12. I broke the balls and made a ball on the break and ran the 15. And the next game, he broke the balls, didn't make any balls on the break, and I ran 10. So, but nobody plays that way anymore. Back then, we all played with 15 balls and played safe a lot. But nowadays, they break them wide open, which makes the game real short. Because a lot of times they break the balls and run 5 and out.
Now, we'll get to Red in a minute, too.
So I'm
George,
just sorry that I missed the bank pool.
Well, you would have enjoyed it. I didn't mean to be rude and interrupt you, but I want to get to George here. I asked him tonight when he joined us in the booth what his high run was playing straight pool, and I don't remember exactly what it was, George.
280. My high run's 280. And the best day I ever had, I played 50 or no count, 100 points. I run 100 and out 11 times. That was the best day I ever had.
That's also disgusting. Aren't you a little bit ashamed of yourself?
No, I was very pleased with myself that time.
And back here, this is a guy that it's been an honor to have him as my friend. Don't you feel that way, Beanie? He's the most feared money player probably of all time.
I don't know whether they can see you very well, but stand up for us, will you, Red? This is our friend, Cornbread Red, Mr. Billy Burge. He is a Kentuckian, too.
One time in Detroit, I'm playing one pocket on a snooker table, and I run 10 and out 10 times on a snooker table. I was playing Duke Paul, and he's playing right down here below us right now.
Well, you were a character, boy, all these years. It was a lot of fun to be around you. Something exciting was going to happen. Anyway, this is a lot of history here. Man, don't you feel that way, Beanie? I mean, I'm honored just to be sitting here in this group.
Absolutely, and I was very surprised that George was here. I know he's like 85, is that correct, George?
Right, 85.
85 years old and still going strong. I don't know what is...
I still play a little bit, but not a whole lot. I can't make the long, tough ones, but I can manage Mr. White.
But it's just an honor to get together with a group like this in Louisville, Kentucky. It's the greatest tournament since Johnston City.
I agree.
I talked to Eddie a couple of weeks ago, and his friend Alf Taylor from Aspen, Colorado, said that he would fly down there and drive him up here, and they stopped in Knoxville, Tennessee. And Eddie went in the pool room. We didn't get out for 2 days. Telling a few stories, right, Eddie?
Well, actually, today we stopped at a billiard room over in Knoxville, and I thought we never was going to get out there, and I never saw so many people that I didn't realize I didn't remember, but so many of them knew me, was talking about 45 years ago. And I just couldn't believe that many people would be in that room when I happened to drop in, you know. But I wanted to say something about the way they are playing this. I'm just sorry that I missed the banks, because but I had thought about, I always thought that Donnie Anderson was a tremendous bank pool player. But we all played a little safety back then. We played with the 15 balls, and we broke the ball safe, you know, and we played safe on a lot of shots, on nearly every shot if it was a long shot. So I wanted to see him play with that 9-ball rack. I wanted to see him, but I'm sorry I missed it.
Well, I'm sorry that all the young people didn't get a chance to see you play bank pool when you were at the apex of your game, and that was beautiful to witness. I mean, nobody was in your league. Even Bugs, he learned from you, and he could never quite beat you, you know,
No.
and he went on to become maybe the best bank pool player in the world.
Yeah.
Now, Red played a great game of banks. He dusted off quite a few opponents.
He dusted me off playing one pocket in Detroit.
Yeah, about 40 years ago.
After that, we were good run mates. You know, we were on the road together for a little bit.
I want to ask George a question. George, you knew Rags Fitzpatrick quite well. Will you tell us a little bit about his game and how good a player he was?
As far as I'm concerned, he was the best all-around player of all times. He played each game very, very well, and one pocket especially. And in 9-ball, he, as far as I'm concerned, was about equal to Lassiter and myself. He and I played, I suspect, 20 times, and probably wasn't more than a game or two. Right.
I agree with Rags, Johnny Fitzpatrick. I agree with his about the one pocket, because I suggested that he was the best one pocket player that I ever played. Lingo was past. Lingo's. It was past his time.
All-around player, he was probably the
he
better.
was great, and a real gentleman.
Yes, sir, that's right.
Real gentleman.
By the way, his daughter is in my hometown now, and I've gotten acquainted with her, and she's a fine lady. Her husband is a colonel at right field. So I suggested that they put him in that magazine the same as they did me, and they followed it through, and I appreciated it. They called Staten, and he confirmed it, and between his wife, and his daughter, and Weenie Beenie here, myself, we put together a right nice piece, and he deserved it.
I'd like to say one other thing, Bill. Can I coax you into telling the story about the year you took Eddie to the straight pool tournament in New York, and he had never played a game of it in his life? Now, that's a cute story. Why don't you relate that to everybody? I think they'll get a big kick out of this.
As much as I can remember, a lot of times they had the big World Straight Pool Championship in New York City, and you had to be invited in order to get there. So it was kind of a closed group up there. Not many of the Southerners. We didn't play a lot of straight pool there, so therefore we were not invited very much. Eddie got invited up there finally, and rightfully so. And if I'm not mistaken, you correct me if I tell this wrong, that the first 6 games that you played, you lost.
I won 1 and lost 5.
He won 1 and lost 5. Tell us what you did on the next 7.
Well, Crane was telling me this story. Crane said him and Lassiter was talking to the promoter, and the promoter said, "Hey, I thought this Taylor could play." So Lassiter spoke up, and he said, "Don't worry about Taylor. When the smoke clears, Taylor will be there." I won my last 8 in a row.
he picked it up in a hurry.
I can tell you a little story about the Fat Man that you might enjoy. He came to my town when I was just a kid, and I was in the room cleaning the tables for the local place. It was before noon, and he said, "I'd like to find this guy George. I hear he plays 9-ball." I said, "Well, he doesn't come in until about 1 o'clock, but I'll play you some till he gets here." He said, "Sonny, you don't have enough money to play with me." So I went over next door, and I came back with a handful of money, and all in a rubber band, probably $1,000, you see. I said, "Is this enough?" He said, "That's enough." So anyhow, he gets his stick, and he's parked out in front of the place, in front of a fire plug, had 2 blondes with him. And he came in, he said, "You can break them, Sonny." And we're playing, I don't remember exactly, for fairly good money for 9-ball. So I made a ball on a break, and I run out, and he's calling for some powder, and he's putting his stick together. So I broke him and run out, and he's working on his chip. And so I broke him again and run out, and he's standing like so. The 5th game, I broke him, run out. He's starting to unscrew. At the end of the 6th game, he never got a turn. Not a turn. Didn't shoot a ball.
I played Fats when I was 14 years old, and he was 20.
Right.
We played a game of 1 pocket for $2.50 and a game of banks for $2.50. We played all night long and broke even. Now, here's a story. In Washington, D.C. in 1945, we played the same way. But we played for $50 on the banks and $50 on the 1 pocket. So I beat him out of 500. The next, he said, "Come to Philadelphia, I'll play you some for 100. I said, "Where are you going to play?" Philadelphia had the blue law, everything's closed. He said, "We can play out at Jimmy Dykes, who used to be the manager of the Chicago White Sox." He said he has a bowling alley and he has tables downstairs. So I said, "I'll be there tomorrow, see you around 2 o'clock. So we started playing. He's winning the banks, and I'm winning the 1 pocket. That goes on for about 2 hours, but finally I beat him out of 1,800, and he quit. He had a pocket full of money left, but he quit. But later on, he told these reporters in Florida, we're talking, he said, "Eddie, here's a great bank pool player. My game was 1 pocket." So one time we played for 3 days and nights, and we played for 500 a game, and we played 3 days and nights, a game of bank, a game of 1 pocket, and broke dead even. So I went back over to the billiard room. These were 2 reporters we were talking to in the restaurant. I went back over to my place, and I told my wife, I said, "You won't believe this. I just got the greatest compliment that I ever got in my life." She said, "What's that?" I said, "Pat said we played 3 days and nights and broke dead even." I said, "Ain't nobody ever broke even with Pat."
That's the only one that ever broke even with him, right, Eddie?
Now, Red, you played Patty quite a few times, didn't you?
Yeah,
And what happened?
I beat him.
Minnesota Pat show.
You tell him.
Now, tell us about the TV show in Chicago. Now, that's a good story.
He knows more than I do.
Well, the only thing about it, Fats played, it was Minnesota Fats show on Channel 32, the UHF station, every Monday night, 2 hours live. He played 13 people. Did you play him, Beanie?
Yes, yes.
All right, he played 13 people, and if you didn't make a ball, you got $600. If you beat him 2 out of the 3, you got $700. But if you beat him all 3, you got $1,000. Now, out of the 13, only 2 fellas beat him for $1,000.
I was there.
Red,
I can relate to this
Red
story.
and me. And I'd give, if anybody knows of how to get in touch with that tape, I'll make it worth their while if they'll come and let me know. Me or Red, either one.
Minnesota Fats had this program in Chicago called Minnesota Fats Hustles the Pros. And each week he would invite a different pro. Now he was the star of this show, so he thought he was inviting a very weak player for his first opponent. It was Cornbread Red. Red came in and absolutely just beat him. I remember this. After Red is just shooting him down, he says, "Red, ain't nobody going to believe that you beat me. Then nobody will believe it. But I know that Eddie played, Luther Laster played, I played him, and it was quite a show.
I just want to say what a great honor it is for me individually to be part of the history of our hallowed sport. We've had so many wonderful champions like George Rood and Cornbread and Eddie Taylor and you, Weenie Beenie, too. And I'm reminded here, well, thank you for that. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice of you guys. But what about a guy like Harold Worth that died of cancer at 39? Wasn't he a spectacular player, guys?
Yes, he was.
He was, to my way of hearing it, I never did see him play, but I heard that he was probably the best all-around player to ever play.
Well, you know, he was very Efren Reyes-like in that he took up one pocket, and hell, in 1 month he was beating good players.
Unbelievable. How good that he was playing everything. Of course, they didn't play banks. You know, George didn't have that in the tournament. He claimed that wouldn't nobody get in it, but there would have been a lot of people who had got in it, especially from Kentucky.
Well, let's take a quick second and remind everybody that might not know the Jansko brothers. There was a saying about them that was very true. Paulie would steal your eyeball, and Georgie'd tell you look great without it.
Right.
So,
That's right.
they owed the golf course next door, the restaurant, the bar, the pool facility. The only thing they didn't own was a motel, and they were in with that.
Not many people got away with it, hardly any money.
Right. The tournament was 3 weeks long.
Well, Bob, over that, 6 weeks long, 5 weeks long.
It was quite a time. I know that in Johnston City, whom we were speaking about, I spent 11 months of my life in Johnston City. Now, that's just coming for the tournament, and I was there the year before the tournament where we helped get it started. And anyway, the tournaments lasted 24 days. So you count that up for like 13 or 14 years, and it's almost like 11 months of my life that I spent there in Johnston City. It was a great experience for me. And I'll tell you one thing, fellows out there, if they have this tournament here in Louisville, Kentucky, it is growing like Johnston City did, and all the old-timers are here, and there's lots of things going on here. So if you get a chance to come next year, you should put it on your calendar to come to the Derby City Classic, Louisville, Kentucky.
Well, at the risk of exhausting our wonderful champions' hospitality and time, I think maybe we better wrap this up. And I just want to say again what a great honor it is for all of us in the sport and at Accustas to have you guys present, and thanks for the stories and the company and everything else. Thanks, Eddie. That's wonderful.
Vice versa.
I'd like to have, if the tape's available, I'd like to have a copy of it.
Well, I'm sure we can fix that up. Red, thank you, too. I couldn't get you to talk much.
Yeah, I'd like to have one too.
Yeah, you'll get it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, it's a great honor, you guys. I'm telling you, there's a lot of love here. I mean, really. I can't think of any way I would rather have spent my time tonight than doing this.
I've enjoyed it tremendously. I've enjoyed it very much.
Thank you, Eddie. You know, we all love you, and you too, George and Red and Bill.
Well, I consider it a great honor, and I appreciate it no end, and I don't know what I could do to have more fun than this.
Well, thank you,
Okay,
my
it's good
friend.
to have
We
all of
really
you here.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you a lot.
All right.